Yeah, there it goes, and there so goes the T90M. He's pushing the BMPT just straight past the enemy lines. Not sure how that's gonna turn out. I feel like it might just die very quickly to helicopters. And hey, look at speak of the devil.
Alright, so today for a Broken Arrow match review, have a gameplay match sent in by my good old buddy old pal Hansen. At the time of recording, he was a ELO of around 520, but currently he has an ELO of 773. He's got 33 matches played with a win rate of 55% and a KD of 0.93. Before we get into the deck review, it is important to note that this is a later version of the deck, and so there's going to be some changes, but I will attempt to point out everything that has changed in between now and when he had played the match. So I will try to point those out. But let's just get into the deck review. Start with the recon tab. Interesting thing is that he's chosen to go with these 1750 recon squads. So he doesn't have any snipers with like 2000. Because the PDSSs get 2000, although these aren't snipers. One thing that sucks about these is that the fire support version with 50 cals are pretty much double points. So I can understand why he chose the assault version of these. But these dudes get laser designators, so it's really more these guys that are going to be the assault squads, considering these should try to be kept alive much more often. One interesting thing about the recon tab is just how many BTR 90s are in here. He has 7 of them at 700 points in total. They've got decent weaponry, like these Cornets are 2 missiles per target, so they will fire in tandem and go straight through APS. But this is a lot of points to dedicate in the recon tab. These AGSs could come in handy, but this has got no APS and pretty much some pretty bad armor as well as no optics. So unless you have your recon with them to, spot out distant enemy vehicles, these probably aren't going to last very long without proper support. The only other recon unit he has is this 2000 optic T90M. It's got its cord and the optronic system to get that extra recon. This is a pretty decent tank, especially on the Russian side. Because you want to try and get the shot off first, especially on the Russian side. U.S. tanks, when they are shocked, will reload much slower. Well, not much slower, but a decent amount slower. And the Russian tanks don't suffer from that due to the fact that they have an autoloader. So they won't be affected by a shocked crew. But yeah, it's a pretty small recon deck. I probably would have liked to see maybe some BRDMs with better optics, using these for like peekaboo plays, kind of flanks. These guys are really good at the edges of clearings, especially on a map like Black Coast. Having these in a tree line, like just directly next to a huge open clearing where there's a lot of on Black Coast, including like the runway and the field side of the map. These can prove relatively useful, especially because they have lasers, which are super long range. But he's elected just to use these guys and this T90M as his only form of recon, since these BTR 90s don't really count. Next up is the infantry deck. He's made a few changes since then, and I'll mention them. He's gotten some Guardi Motostroki. These are pretty much one of the better infantry squads that you can have on the Russian side, mostly because of these RPG-28s. These do a ridiculous amount of penetration. This is like top tier ATGM levels of penetration, 900 millimeters of explosive. It's kind of insane. Got some pretty decent PKPs for shooting at longer range targets. AK-12s are a bit lackluster. They don't do great damage. He does use some Morskaya still. These have better infantry rifles. But the RPG-27s are a bit more lackluster than what they have over in the Guardian Motostroki. And also they don't get the machine guns, so they're limited to an infantry combat range of 400 meters. He also gets a Gornostroki. These aren't really an assault infantry. These are usually for staying in high rises and pestering infantry squads from afar. They get 600 meter range SVDs, which can pretty much kill off infantry squads trying to cross a field. until they're basically combat ineffective. These Metis launchers aren't great, honestly. They're kind of garbage. They have an 800 millimeter effective range with penetration of 550, so they can be decent against light vehicles and medium vehicles. But the problem is that they're so short range that they're pretty much gonna be within vehicle combat range by the time that these fire. These can be pretty useful for just making enemy vehicle like waste their APSs on it, but this should mainly be used against like infantry and light vehicles at longer range. These guys are pretty interesting. They're basically your building fighters. So you can have the Barbarouses come in, hot drop them on top of a building, and then have these guys fight it out. Flashbangs will basically just guarantee a win, but you gotta remember these guys only have one, so you gotta make sure to resupply them relatively quickly if you need to clear out multiple buildings. During the game, he's actually got the 57 millimeter on the Barbarouses, which is, you know, no Russian guards deck is complete without. Yeah, so these 57 millimeter cannons are pretty powerful. They will destroy basically any infantry, any light vehicles, helicopters, and even tanks if you get shots on the side. So these are pretty devastating. They've got a lot of armor, and they've even got seats for your infantry. But you know, they are susceptible to set V3s or whatever from the front. Because the 57 millimeters won't pen tanks from the front unless it's a light tank. But yeah, they're a pretty oppressive vehicle, and many US players complain about them. Next up is the Black Berets, or the Chernier Berets. I don't like the AGS-30 version of these, mostly because, at least in the match, he was lacking a kind of like medium range anti-infantry squad. These thermobaric launchers don't need to stop to fire, unlike these. These machine guns and these AGS-30s need to stop to fire, which makes it that these are really only a defensive unit at this point. These AN-94s are actually really good for close quarters. They do 3 damage, unlike most infantry rifles, which are around 1.5. But this 3 damage really can get some enemies killed pretty relatively quickly. But yeah, I would have preferred to see the thermobarics on them, but I don't really think he uses them in the game much. BMP-3s pretty much slaughters enemy infantry. It's got a great HE round for 100 millimeters. Also got some decent ATGMs. They're really much shorter range compared to others, so you don't really want to be trying to take on tanks with these, but they can be a pretty good self-defense one, and then be able to smoke and leave us. They also got 30% ECM from the storage jammer. I've never really could quantify exactly how often it saves a vehicle, but I guess it's better to have it than to not. This is just kind of stupid. The Verba, you only have one of them, and they only get one Verba. It's not like the motorized deck Iglas where they get 2, or the airborne Stingers. These only get 1, unlike the 2 that those other squads get. You definitely need to bring more, because in this tank deck, this mostly vehicle-based deck, you're going to get helicoptered a lot, you know, especially with stuff like JAGM fire and forget missiles, or Hellfire fire and forgets. You really need some SHORAD to protect your tanks, and one Verba is not going to cut it. I don't know what the point of this BMO is. Maybe he's using it as the transport from the Sturmoviki instead of the Barbarous. Maybe he kind of uses the Barbarous as a standoff vehicle. So you could probably use this as an alternative. It has a lot of front armor and 2 smoke, so you can use this to just hot drop your Sturmoviki onto a building and get out of there relatively quickly. Maybe use the cord as a support weapon if the enemy doesn't have any AT on them. But yeah, that does it for the infantry deck. So let's move to the vehicles. So this is relatively stacked for a vehicle tab. This is definitely going to be your main bread and butter. T-90M Arena, probably one of the better Russian tanks. Objectively not as good as the Armata, but a Armata with its base upgrades is at 390 points already, and maxed out it is a ridiculous 420. So I can see why he only opted to choose the maxed out T90M, which is one I personally like. This is a weird choice to have maxed amount of BMPT Terminators, considering he's already got the Barbaruses, and there's not really much of a difference, especially because these guys don't have APSs, so they're very vulnerable to helicopters. They do get grenade launchers and then the twin 30 millimeters, so I suppose it can be really good at killing infantry in buildings, but 57 millimeter also does that pretty well. So it's a lot of points in a vehicle that he already has a solution for. So maybe he could bring down the Barbaruses and infantry deck, try to bring more Verbas, try to bring maybe some ATGMs or some SPG9s, that kind of thing. But for right now, it's just a lot of kind of standoff IFVs. What he could also do is he could get something like this. These Cornets have 2 missiles per target, so they'll go straight through APSs. Plus, they also keep the grenade launcher if you really want to keep that. Plus, they're very fast. So these are pretty decent as just like, hit and run ATGMs. For less hit and run, you got these guys, which are actually pretty decent. They can target multiple vehicles at once, and also if there's only one vehicle, they are able to fire both missiles at once. So absolutely shred a vehicle, even if it has APS, if they don't smoke it off in time. So not exactly a bad choice for the vehicle tab. T90As, I do like this a lot. I got some cheaper, 200-point tanks. These are pretty good at keeping it on the defense, protecting, an area from like a tank rush, or using it to back up your main tanks with APSs. You have these guys out in front with their APSs, and then you have some more cheaper tanks with perhaps less armor, but still being able to deal out the damage because they are not going to need to soak up as much as the front leading ones. But yeah, I like this a lot. And it's got some decent HE rounds. 12 damage, actually. It's pretty impressive. So yeah, I want to see. Yeah, same damage as the HE rounds on the T90M. So you're not really losing that much capability. Basically slightly worse AP, about 50 kinetic penetration, but still definitely able to deter some enemy tanks. But yeah, that's the vehicle tab. Not bad at all. Except for the BMPT Terminators, this is questionable, but they're not a bad vehicle in any means. Support tab. This is where it gets a little interesting and kind of bad. I'm not gonna lie. One thing that I don't understand is why he has 2 sets of these long-range artillery, unless he really wants this extra smoke and the extra laser-guided artillery that the MSTA has compares to the Barrack. Also, he's got the SPAA rounds, which is interesting, and I think that because now you got to keep these really supplied because they have very little of either comparatively to when they have just one. So if you're using this mostly for arty spam or just artillery in general, you're gonna need to keep these topped up more. I feel like he just needs to invest in regular AA more. If you remember, he only has 1 Verba, so this is all he's gonna have to fight against helicopters. Tor M2 is pretty decent. Probably want to keep them like at a more standoff range compared to something like this with the Iglas. I don't know if he's using these as like cruise missile protection from these, because if they are, you can just bring them with just the radar and then save a bunch of extra points. But yeah, these can be used pushed up with your tanks. Vityaz is pretty decent. Is pretty good at just like targeting a bunch of different things at once. It's actually got 3 multi-targets at once, which might be one of the most in a long-range AA. I'm not sure. What I've seen other people do is they'll bring some of these guys. These cost only 150 points, so 2 of these is the same as 1 of the S350s, and they have far more range, 4,500 compared to 3,600. So that's an extra 1,000 meters of range you're getting, and I believe with radar it doubles. So yeah, but maybe he's relying on his teammates with a bigger support deck to try and counter those long-range air superiority fighters or cruise missiles coming from long-range bombers. But the biggest problem I foresee is this. This is pretty bad. It's not bad in the sense of the amount of supply it brings, but it's bad in the sense of 65 movement speed. That's just not good. You go back to the T90M Arena. This tank is faster than this supply vehicle, so it's gonna take a long while. So he doesn't even have helicopters to help bridge that gap. So if you're playing a deck like this and your only supply is really coming from these guys, you have to constantly be aware of how long it takes for supply to reach anywhere. Honestly, you should bring a bunch of supply from these guys at the start in your deployment setup, because by the time that you realize you need supply, it's already going to take 5+ minutes to repair whatever needs supply. And so by the time that, if you have a tank that's low on health, by the time that you've repaired it, the entire game state has probably changed to where, that tank has just become useless for an extended period of time. So definitely need to bring more supply helicopters in this deck. I'll mention it later when we go over to the helicopter deck. Yeah, one thing you should probably bring is, this is one of the probably one of the best units from the guards deck. It's the Derivetsia. This is basically a Barbarous cannon, but with way longer range for helicopters. This is like 2,000, 1900 meters on this Barbarous cannon. It will absolutely shred helicopters, and it is pretty decently fast, because you don't need to. I don't believe you need to stop. You don't need to stop moving while using this, unlike some other ones like the Tor, I believe. Maybe you don't need to stop. Maybe I'm wrong. But you can have these up next to your tanks, being able to pretty much shred either infantry or some, because it even has a AP round on it. It doesn't have the greatest penetration, but can definitely be used in a pinch. And yeah, so this is a pretty good vehicle to kill helicopter spam, which is a possibility against like SOF decks. But yeah, that is the support deck, so we will go ahead and move on to the helicopter. One thing I will mention is that I personally, I do like these guys, because these guys get smoke and HE for 70 points, and they're pretty useful, especially the smoke rounds. He doesn't really use smoke rounds throughout the game, but you should try them out if you haven't before, because smoking like entire buildings off can be a pretty useful strategy. So down the helicopter deck, we have the Katron. This seems like more like a panic button Katron, rather than like a main fighting force. He's got some Hermes, which are terminal guidance. These are pretty decent. With terminal guidance, once the missile reaches like its peak and it's coming back down on a tank, the helicopter can fire another one. So it's not tandem, but it will fire much faster than semi-active. S-13 rockets, looks like this is going to be an anti-vehicle helicopter rather than bringing in the 40 S8 rockets. And the 30mm chain gun does pretty well, as well as also have 25 ECM. This is very tanky as well, and it's got a lot of HP, so probably going to be able to take a few hits as long as you don't just move it straight at the enemy line. This, however, I don't know why he's got this. It's essentially used as like another attack helicopter. It's got 3,000 supplies and 16 seats, and it's just absolutely filled to the brim with its customization options, but I don't know if this is how I would use it. Maybe he wanted it in theory to use it as like something to hot drop infantry, and use it to, defend itself and like put it in an area where there's a bunch of enemy, infantry or vehicles nearby, but he only really uses it as a, like another attack helicopter, but only has 1750 optics, which isn't great. Yeah, what I probably would have done is instead I probably would have just gone and cut it out of the deck and then added these, just because the supply situation is pretty terrible in this deck. I won't lie. But yeah, that's all the helicopters he has. There's a very small amount of helicopters, so we'll just move straight onto the air tab, which is pretty interesting. I like the MiGs. Not sure why he's got these semi-active R27 ERs when he could just get a R77 for 5 more points. I don't know, maybe I'm seeing something wrong. It does slightly more damage, but I feel like if you have so little planes already, you probably want to just try and get as much long-range stuff as possible, because this isn't even a anti-helicopter. The R27 ER is still anti-plane, so I probably would have just stacked up on the R77s. He's got one R73, or one set of R73s, which are his only anti-helicopter, which are good enough. Essentially, this isn't meant to be a a loitering plane. It's only got 120 fuel, so it won't last on the battlefield long. So probably a good opener plane. One thing I don't really know what is this for. It is the Su-33. This is, I guess, supposed to be a loitering plane. It's once again only got 2 R-73s, and then it's only got, I believe both of these are semi-active, if I were to guess. Yeah. Oh, no, the R-27T is fire and forget, but it's also only 2,500 meters. So I guess this is like maybe an anti-drone kind of thing, and he like is supposed to loiter this for the air optics in the back. This can be useful when you're fighting against like SOF once again with the like the Sentinel drones, or like Comanches or F-22s. Just keeping this 12,000 optic plane in the back, trying to spot out any of that stealth aircraft. But I don't know how I feel about the missile packages he's got on it. I probably personally would have gone with 2 MiGs. Maybe see if you could fit in like some cruise missile bombers in there as well, but at the very least probably get a couple of MiGs. But well, you can also put, oh no, I guess you can't really put R-77s on this, so maybe he'll loiter this and then bring up the MiG to take stuff out potentially. But yeah, that's the deck. I will say it's a very interesting deck. This is one of the weirder parts about it, is just having a single Verba. But it's definitely looks like a more just aggressive ground deck, which is something I personally use, but I can definitely tell there's going to be a lot of problems with supply and anti-air. The infantry tab is once again changed a little bit, so it's going to be a little bit different in the actual match itself, but looks like the recon tab is essentially supplementing part of that infantry tab as well. But yeah, we'll go ahead and cut to the game and see how the match plays out.
All right, so we are starting a match on Black Toast. Going ahead and start. So with this map, relatively interesting. I'm going to pause right here just to get a quick introduction. Now, given the deck that Hudson has chosen to use, given the large amount of vehicles and more long-range engagements that's going to be suited for, I would probably only take this side of the map around here. These 3 points right here are pretty good for just constant vehicle combat. They're super long range engagements, and usually you'll be finding armored players playing around here. Somewhere around here can be decent. Going up the runway, still got a decent amount of buildings and forest, but also huge stretches for long range engagements. What's going to be very interesting here, I'm going to go ahead and unpause. Given the 4 special operations decks on the enemy teams, I feel like the aircraft is going to get pretty oppressive, especially without a lot of good AA in this deck. There's some decent amount of AA, but 4 SOF is just going to equal a lot of enemy helicopters, especially Killer Egg spam. If you don't know, 35 points for 250 cals is a incredibly deadly unit, and kind of overpowered in my opinion for only 35 points a pop. But we'll see what happens. Looks like at least one other teammate is trying to do a air tax, but we'll see what happens. Let's see what this opener is. Looks like he's gonna go around for Alpha and Echo, getting some Spetsnaz to push up. I do like the Spetsnaz. Maybe get into those high rises or those forests. Not sure if he's wanting to immediately take Echo. I'm not seeing much aircraft from his teammates, so the main issue is SOF is going to very likely just hot drop a ton of really good infantry right on there. So I feel like his best bet is for playing a retake. Looks like he's got a Terminator there. Barrig and S350. S350 might do some really good stuff at the start if the enemy team kind of gets their aircraft over his spawn. They're not super great at long-range AA, but they have a lot of missiles. So if the enemy team gets overzealous, which sometimes they do in the air war, looks like we already have a disconnect from the enemy team. I did not spot that. But let's see how this turns out. All right, so a strike eagle, that's an interesting choice. All right, okay, now maybe that was just bait for the F-22s inbound. They're probably going to bring out another F-22. Yep, there's one on the left, it looks like. First plane goes down. Really needs to get that S-350 to stop to start firing it. Like I said before, he doesn't even have his radar on, and they're within range. So yeah, these guys are getting pretty overzealous, trying to get the helicopters, I presume, but they only really spawned a single helicopter, and it looks like if the pilots die and then F-22 dies, perhaps, looks like Russia's going to have a pretty decent point lead. But it looks like the F-22 might just get out of there unscathed, but I'm sure that pilot on the left is probably not long. Probably getting an extra 80 to 100 points off of that. Excuse me. Yeah, it looks like they already do have, seems like stingers on Echo from presumably a helicopter hot drop. So yeah, like I said before, it looks like he's going to have to start playing for the retake. So now he's going to need to get some pretty decent anti-infantry vehicles, maybe get some of those Terminators and maybe some of those shield infantry to try and take over that building, because it looks like that's where most of those units are going to be in. Barrig is softening up those targets pretty decent, but I will say the fact that he hasn't brought up any supply yet is a bit concerning, especially with a very slow deck like this. I would definitely have brought out one of those, I believe, 3Ms, those really slow 10,000 supply vehicles up immediately, simply because of how long it will take for that supply to reach you, because as far as I can tell, he might only start spawning supply when his units start actually needing it, and just the length of time it takes for that to come up. Also, another thing, no AA yet, it seems, except for that Barrett if you can. Oh, and speaking of the devil, here comes I believe that's a Guardian out. Yeah, so one thing you have to deal with the SOF deck is that you basically need to have a lot of really good AA to prevent helicopter spam, especially when you have 4 SOF decks, which is honestly quite a ludicrous amount of SOF. They are quite a good deck, but I feel like they might lack a spread of units. So they might just have really good concentrated units. Oh, all those BTRs are being destroyed, so that's not great. That one DC on the enemy team has deserted. He is just running that Terminator up into that Guardian. Guardians have 2,000 meter JAGM fire and forget missiles. So once they reach terminal guidance, so essentially when you see the missile reach the peak of its height, it can fire another one. So it's not exactly a ripple fire ATGM like some Conquerors or Hornet vehicles, but they will fire their missiles incredibly quickly and can, especially against BMPT Terminators, which have no option for an APS. Guardians are incoming. Yeah, like I said before, that lack of AA really seems to going to be able to bite him. And honestly, if they rush those helicopters, it might be completely over for him. Oh, his S-350 runs out of munitions, so that's he's going to be able to get away. Yet another helicopter, and look at that killer egg span it looks like on the left. Unless those are little birds for, and they're just trying to hot drop a bunch of, nah, those definitely are going to be killer eggs. Looks like he's getting his MiG in, but the problem is he only has 2 Sidewinders on this MiG. And there it goes. Practically immediately. Yeah, so the only way that MiG was going to do any damage to those helicopters is with strafes, considering there was no anti-helicopter missiles besides those 2, well, not Sidewinders, whatever the Russian equivalent is. Looks like he's finally bringing the Tor up, just turned the radar on, but now those Guardians are able to make a quick getaway. I don't know if they spotted that, but they definitely did enough damage to justify their rush. And now the enemy team is +1 on kills. However, somehow, the Russians did make a +1 on captures. Looks like they've given up completely on the left side on pushing beyond India. If you can see on the mini-map, looks like they've taken the majority of the points on the right, except the one closest to the Russian spawn. Yeah, Guardians are just continuing their reign of terror. Oh, finally, Derevatsia is coming up to try and take care of them. Let's see if they can get away, but ooh, that Jagam. Yeah, those Jagams are definitely a pretty hard thing to avoid. Finally, this the supply vehicle is up. I have no idea how much supply he put in it. I don't know if he put max, but 10,000 is definitely a lot of supply and can be very risky if you put it all in one place. Okay, 4,000 supply. So actually, I don't. Is not going to be a lot. He chooses to put it kind of out in the open. Bit risky for that. I wonder how much supply his teammate has there. Only about 2,000. Yeah, that's not a very sustainable amount of supply. So once he starts bringing in vehicles, he has to bring in more supply for them. Unless he just wants to send out the vehicles and get them killed without any backup. Borlo Strelki, this was not in the deck review. Oh, he's bringing in a Barbarous. That's interesting. These are really good at long range, kind of anti-infantry, just like holding infantry. Their ATGM is pretty garbage, but they can be really useful for clearing up APS as a relatively cheap infantry. They're really good against enemy infantry squads pushing across like a field, say, getting that squad, you know, basically combat ineffective by the time they reach an objective. Su-57 looks like it's attempting to do a seed run. Doesn't really do anything, it seems like, but has exposed the positions of the AA vehicles for artillery. Not sure how I feel about constantly microing this barrack. He's only got one of them. So I wonder if his teammates have a large amount of artillery. Because this is going to be very slow and very easy to dodge once it reaches wherever it's landing, unless there's a supply depot on top of it. I do like this Morskaya pushing up into that forest. I would probably have it hold fire, see if it can see anything on the left side of that forest, but it looks like he's just pushing straight into Echo, which probably isn't a great idea. Still have that Guardian there. Definitely needs to bring probably like a gun-based AA, like a Shoka. Oh, that building is absolutely stacked with people. Okay, so yeah, that should be target for some kind of artillery. He is not alleging he's not gonna smoke that. He looks like he's just running that straight into that to sacrifice. I mean, could work. He'd rather try to just get as many kills as possible with it. I guess he's assuming that it's unlikely it would survive by backing off since there's that Guardian there, but now he's got that Tor up, so I'm not sure. Yeah, just an extreme amount of helicopters, as I was saying before the game started. It's just the SOF deck will absolutely completely saturate your airspace with enemy helicopters, so you really need to start bringing up more AA. Finally, the Tors are getting into the battle, but they're kind of out in the open, so might actually lose to those 2,000 meter Jagam fire and forget missiles. Looks like they're softening up the position on E. Got that BMP-3 with some really good HE rounds getting targeted, so that squad's on Echo's probably gonna die pretty quickly. Looks like they were losing some units to some cluster artillery. Don't like how close he's getting that Tor M2 up to the front line. Feels like it's a very easy target for like a plane or just a helicopter rush with killer eggs or something similar. But it looks like they're not really marking their helicopters that well, and they're just, alright, interesting. Looks like that Strike Eagle, I'm not exactly sure if that did anything, but maybe it did. Now we're finally capturing E. Probably get the Gornostroki to the other side of that building. Very good. Oh, no, pushing the Gornostroki up. Alright, interesting. And also has a sideline on some MLRS just in the middle of the airfield. Really interesting spot. Probably should have put it in the forest on the far end. Oh, and now there's just Patriots on the middle of the open too. What? Um, okay, I'm gonna pause right here. So, um, I feel like this is a good position to hold. Considering there's no points on this side of the map, you're probably going to want to get a good defensive position, essentially along here, because they seem to be just pouring in units on this side of the airfield. And so getting good recon, getting good ATGMs and all the like up here will help to essentially mitigate them, force them to reroute through here over towards where you have another friendly holding, I believe that's Gulf. Another place I would get is trying to get some Spetsnaz VMF in this forest, right here. Just get some good recon into troops probably diverting around here. This would actually be a pretty good spot right here if you had like a 2400 optic vehicle. You had one there. Imagine the absolute sight line you could probably have into the edge of the airfield, considering they seem to have some like PAC-2s and some MLRSs around here. Definitely a good spot to just watch over everything the enemy is sending you. Once again, need to bring up these tours. These tours are way in the back right now, and you need more AA, just because we have seen the amount of Guardians. They are investing a ridiculous amount of points into helicopters. Probably did some recon over here. Make sure there's nothing coming from India, because it does not seem like they have. Oh, they actually did capture the far end, but still probably a good place, because if they don't want to capture at this point right here, they might want to assault through here along with an assault from like say here. And if that's the case, then yeah, it's a recon as an early warning system to go ahead and consolidate your forces would definitely be a good idea. But let's see what happens. All right, so getting more of those tandem fire BTR-90s in. Still thinking he needs to get more AA. He's only got the Tor and the barracks, but I don't know if I would count on the barracks to being great AA. It looks like his teammates got some AA up there. Yeah, exactly as I said earlier, like getting recon to watch for an attack from across the airfield from India. Looks like that Barbarous is getting some kills up ahead. I will not push it up there by itself. He's already out of ATGM, so, and yeah, the lack of AA once again is going to get that thing killed very quickly. But I don't know why they have everything just sitting right there with basically nothing guarding it, but that Barbarous is probably going to die to that Abrams. Yep, there it goes. Core M2, it looks like it's getting refitted and being sent back out. Constant microing of his, like, well, I believe now he has 2 barracks, but I think he's only selecting 1. Yeah, definitely think he starts to need to think about getting more recon and some more anti-tank kind of things. The most far-up thing he has pushed is a single Gorno-Shogi, which will not last that long on its own. As mentioned before, it only has 1 ATGM it can fire at a time, and they are one of the worst ATGM in the game, I believe. If I remember correctly, I think the Gorno-Shogi might have better optics than your average infantry squad, but not by a lot. They're out of a building, and they're being attacked by an Abrams, so that needs to probably run and just smoke off as fast as possible. Gain that BTR-90 and hopefully to hit it with some tandem, but looks like it's an entire vehicle convoy, so unlikely to maybe it will get a kill on the Bradley, but yeah, okay, so it looks like his teammate did capture that forest area with the sniper, so that is definitely going to be some decent recon if he can push it up a little bit. Yeah, that's okay, at this point you're going to be playing for the retake on that cap. BTR-90 maybe as a harassment, but it is 100 points, I believe. so I'm not sure if it's worth it. Yeah, it's definitely not going to be able to kill anything with those Abrams, considering how far that Bradley is pushed up. I would just back it off at that point. Berg is really close to the front lines. There's like nothing in front of it, so I don't know if that's a fairly great spot to have it. It looks like that BTR is going to die pretty quickly. Yeah, and there it goes. Tor probably needs to get in some kind of tree line or something. S350 is also quite pushed up, also has no radar on it. Okay, BMPT Terminator is coming up. It'd be helpful if he had the option turned on where all of the enemies were colored differently. Just a tip in case you don't know, you can make all of the enemies different colors so you can know if you're 1v2ing or just 1v1ing an enemy player. T90M and BMPT coming up. T90M probably going to be able to do some damage. BMPT maybe use a distraction. Has really good front armor, so you can use that to distract the tanks and have it shoot from the sides. Looks like T90M's coming from the side. Some of the infantry's doing some slight amount of distractions, maybe making the Abrams eat some APS. That BTR is getting very dangerously close. Yep, and it's taking a shot to the front, and I believe that Morse guy is going to be out in the open. T90M comes in. This is an interesting play, just absolutely going point blank into some things, but looks like it might work. Try to halt those tanks in their step as I believe the helicopter is firing ATGMS at them, but that shore ride in the back is definitely going to... Oh, it is his Kitron, I did not realize. Yeah, that Kitron's going to die relatively quickly. Yeah, there it goes, and so goes the T90M. He's pushing the BMPT just straight past the enemy lines. Not sure how that's going to turn out. I feel like it might just die very quickly to helicopters. And hey, look at speak of the devil. Yeah, Tor M2 is once again still just not really doing anything, being covered up by a bunch of high-rises, so it's not even going to have line of sight on those helicopters. Killer Eggs on the left. Yeah, they're definitely going to capture A at this point. He kind of like pushed his vehicles way too far up when he should have been playing the retake, but it looks like honestly they might be able to. That was a weird Guardian rush. Didn't really no real reason to just sacrifice the Guardians like that, but I guess they just figuring that they weren't going to survive anyway, so just try to get as many kills as they could. Yeah, Abrams is definitely going to be able to capture that. Honestly, if they had more vehicles, they could just push straight through out to that bridge and probably get a lot of kills. But it looks like there's a lot of QRF incoming, multiple tanks from the Russians. Yeah, I definitely think at this point it's just best to consolidate your forces, try to get more points for phase 2. I would not try to just rush things in just for an extra, like, +1 point on your side. Or -1 on their side, more accurately. Yeah, not like in the single barrage, just kind of pestering that Abrams. Not really doing anything. It has a low amount of ammo, so not really doing much. Okay, so start of phase 2. Got a couple extra 100 points. Now's the best time is probably try to get some consolidation, get some infantry in those high rises, kind of where those snipers are, and then conduct a push on Echo. Yeah. Looks like the Abrams is trying to get away, but will die to the T-72s, it looks like. More helicopters incoming. They're probably going to reinforce that tree line around Echo. Good thing that sniper is there spotting all of that. Let's see if they kill these helicopters. Kill 1 and kill 2. Alright. So now they've got a pretty decent kill lead, not enough to get a points yet, but getting there. Looks like recapping A, and we'll likely be able to recap Echo. This might be a good time to coordinate with that teammate on the left with the helicopters and the other T-72. They might have just lost a lot of infantry from those helicopter crashes, so it might very well be not that well garrisoned by infantry. They've got just shore ads in the middle of the field. Once again, this Berrig play is quite interesting just because it's going to take a long while for those barracks to fire, roughly around 15 seconds for tube artillery to begin firing, and those shore ads are probably going to be long gone by then. Once again, got that VMF squad. Probably a decent place to put them would be on the right side of Echo. Get some extra recon up into that big open field where some tanks and infantry could, enemy tanks and infantry could infiltrate, and just go ahead and put a stop to that. Got some aircraft pushing on the right side, but doesn't seem like it's going to be that much of a big deal. Okay, so it looks like they have very few infantry. Oh, but they pushed that T-90A way too far up. It's going to get hit in the sides and take quite a bit of damage if it doesn't back up. Yeah, it's already around to half health. They've only got Javelin infantry and then 3 mech riflemen in there. Guardian Motostraki will probably be able to take care of those relatively quickly along that BTR 80 as long as those mech riflemen are out of, I believe they get AT4s. Oh, but looks like there's coming in with the tank, SEP B3 Trophy, pretty much the strongest brawler tank in the game. But it looks like they're going to be able to kill the infantry on it and start a decap of Echo until if the tank gets on it. BMP-3 incoming. Not sure about how. I would probably just back up the BTR and get the Motostraki on the other side of the building opposite the tank. Try and force it. Oh, yeah. So you got to really make sure that when Artie is going towards your line, that you got to make sure you can tell where it's going. That Barrag might have not been able to get out of there, but that T-90M could have definitely been diverted away and not have lost those points. Once again, absolutely no supply up towards the front. Definitely something that... Oh, and there goes the BTR. Yeah. Once again, lack of AA. The teammate on the left probably should have moved his Sosna, but you also need to be responsible for your own shore ad. Yeah, T-90A destroyed, Tor destroyed. Yeah, once again, as I said before, just absolutely devastating helicopter rushes by the SOF decks. Just Patriot out in the open, I guess. Good spot by that VMF. Could probably laser it from that tree line or just go straight for it. The dispersion on the long-range artillery at that distance is pretty terrible, so you probably want to try lasering it if you can. S-300 being destroyed by Artie. S-350 looks like it's actually might be able to get out of there, maybe? Yeah, it looks like it got out there just by the skin of its teeth. Okay, looks like, yeah, once again, tank push from India. Didn't have recon, but had enough units with vision to go ahead and try and stop it. And one of the tanks dead, 2 of the tanks dead. Actually, pretty good play on the defense with the unit positioning. This is a pretty good spot to put the units. I would probably back up those Motostraki, put the Gornostroki in the building they are in now, and then bring some supply up. I don't know if he's called up any supply units recently, which was definitely going to harm him, as a lot of his troops need supply. Looks like his teammate's bringing up some supply, but not sure if it's going to be enough for everyone here. Definitely seems like they're going pretty hard. Oh, just a bunch of random Cow Scouts crossing the field. Probably could have seen that earlier if there was any kind of recon. But since they're out in the open right now, especially with that BMP-3 is probably going to take a hit, but I bet it's going to be able to kill them before it dies. Yeah, took a really huge hit, but that Gornostroki with that SPD can just pretty much mop that up pretty quickly. Cow Scouts are a 3-man squad, so they die relatively quickly when out in the open. And it is destroyed. Probably back up most of your stuff. Considering you have a +2 on the points, I would probably just get the Gornostroki backed up into some buildings, but it looks like the shore ads are pushed up and trying to take everything down. I would probably not take that fight with the BMP-3. The 30mm on the shore ad can definitely do some damage to you. And I feel like that BMP-3 is going to die. Shoreds can also have Hellfires. Not sure about if these ones have Hellfires, but yeah, Hellfires can definitely... Oh, and would you look at that? Another push across the airfield from India. Looks like that Sosno is going to mop up a couple of them. Hopefully it can get that, I believe, Comanche. Yeah, it's got a Comanche in there. Barrag actually gets a kill. Interesting. Yeah, this would be a great time to have a bunch of infantry man-pad AA like Iglas or Estrellas, but unfortunately he does not have any but a single one in his deck, which is going to make it so he has to rely solely on his Tors. He has not brought any of the Shokas up with Stingers, which might fare better at close range compared to the Tors, considering I believe the Tors have a bit of a longer aim time. I don't like how he's pushing that Terminator all the way up to that other end of the field. I feel like that Tor is not going to be able to defend it, especially because its radar is off. And also, still absolutely no supply. Is he finally bringing it? Yeah, it looks like he's finally bringing it. 3,000 supply. Yeah, that's not really going to be enough. It might be able to kill those units right then and there, but you need to bring enough supply to sustain your forces. And if that T-90 or that BMPT starts taking hits, that 3,000 supply is just not going to cut it. Looks like he's bringing another 5,000, but that looks like it's only going to be for his barrack, and I'm not sure if he's going to push those up. BMPT Terminator just continually pushing up. I don't know if he's trying to kill those Patriots that were there, but now it's immediately been spotted by that Sentinel, and that is likely going to get killed by helicopters. Now, would you guess it? More fucking helicopters. Excuse me, but is again a little ridiculous. Hopefully that you can take out that Chinook before it lands, because I'm sure that's got a lot of infantry and there or some supply. I don't know if it's got supply for the artillery or some Pack 2s, but hopefully be able to kill it before it lands. And oh no, it looks like it's landing, and that's a ton of infantry. I really doubt that infantry is going to last long, considering it's in the middle of the airfield, unless he immediately tries to back it up. But considering they're already so pushed up far forward, I doubt he's going to try and back it up. That T-90 Emmeline is just going to die to that wall of ATGM vehicles. I'm going to bet you. Might be able to kill one, but nope, there it goes. More Gunnastrelki coming in with another BMP3 and another BTR. Still absolutely no supply to be seen, considering how slow the supply vehicles are. He got one that's even slower than the 65. I believe it might be a 55 speed vehicle, which is absolutely incredibly, insanely slow. I don't... yeah. That Barbarous is pushing pretty far up. He's finally turning the radar on with the Tor, but I don't know if that's going to be enough, considering there was that wall of ATGM vehicles. I feel like it might just walk in there and he died pretty quickly, especially considering it's all by itself. Looks like the teammates putting in a line up. Oh, here comes the wall of ATGM vehicles. Alright, this is a terrible way to have your ATGM vehicles. Probably want them maybe in pairs and then spread them out. Having just a wall of them is quite ridiculous. Oh, there's that absolute huge amount of AA infantry in the middle of an open field. Here comes that. Yeah, that's all going to die very quickly. Yeah, those ATGM vehicles were in such a stupid formation, honestly. Well, definitely getting a lot of kill points. It's about 10,000 to 7,800. It looks like, what was that, a 73 maybe? Comanche inbound. Tor's not close enough, especially with the stealth on that Comanche. I believe it has like maybe a 2.5 stealth modifier. I don't remember exactly. Looks like those Hellfires are going to kill that BTR. Shorad's going to die to that. Barbarous might actually be able to pick up the kill. There was another Comanche there, apparently. Yeah, it goes to show how good the stealth is on that. They didn't put the supply in the forest, but honestly, there's not enough supply in there to where it really matters. It's probably going to be eaten up very quickly. Gunnastrelki is pushed way too far out for what they are. There's no recon in that tree line, in that, like, forest patch anymore, so... I'm sure that's going to be spotted relatively quickly, especially with the amount of drones the enemy team has been using. And that might just die relatively quickly to some artillery. Sub-D2, just stay in the middle of the airfield. Fortunately, there's no lasers. This would be a great time to have a 2400 optic laser recon or something, but yeah, that's already down to half supply. So yeah, that supply is definitely not enough. Looks like he's trying to get some ATGMs on those vehicles. Not exactly a terrible idea. ATGMs outrange tank shells, and the Abrams don't get their own ATGMs like most Russian tanks. A huge Comanche and longbow span on the right. Tor is being line of sight blocked over there. hopefully the teammate on the right has Derivatia, so hopefully we'll be able to counter that. Surprised did not spot the Gornostroki. It looks like the Tor is finally coming in. Not sure if it's going to be able to kill them before they get away. Maybe. Yep, one down. And the rest escape over to India. The Malarsas looks like it might be targeting his barracks, or looks like it's targeting his teammate's supply depot. Yeah, that's a very, very important tell though, because they have some form of recon that's able to spot something that far ahead. So it might be a Sentinel drone or something similar, but that should be a very big cause for concern. You might want to use your 2400 optic helicopter, start doing some recon scans in the backline, maybe get a MiG up if you have enough points floated for those that 12,000 air optics. It looks like just standing still with that MLRS and firing from the exact same position. Very interesting. 72s looks like they've taken some damage and are falling back. Definitely still has some more packed anti-air just in the middle of the airfield. For some reason, he really want to get this cinematic shot of a barrack, I guess, or so we're just zoomed in staring at it. I'm going to take a little drink. MLRS is still not moved. VMF moving up, getting some good recon, sees that slam ram and another tank, and that other tank got hit in the side, it looks like, by some kind of T-90 or T-72. Looks like a T-72. Looks like a supply depot is destroyed. It looks like they're trying to panic run their tanks, because I guess they want to kill that T-72 pretty quickly. Terminator's coming up. Yeah, huge push by the teammate on the right. See what happens. I feel like they're going to try and bring helicopters to stop that, so hopefully that Dervatsia, since that's really the only thing that's there that can stop that, will be able to help. Looks like some longbow or guardians coming over, but it looks like some clutch AA from the teammate on the left actually doesn't do anything. Never mind. Sub V2 is just standing out in the open, so they might be able to be targeted by the T-90A down the runway. Looks like that Dervatsia is actually going to kill that longbow. BMPT Terminator probably should back it off at this point. It's way too low health to try and fight those tanks, especially because it's one good ability against tanks is its ATGMS, which are worse and worse at closer range when trying to fight the gun. Yeah, very interesting play. I don't know if it's just because of how low the tanks are and he's just trying to just get some points back for the BMVT. Maybe he thought he was gonna be able to get those to survive, but yeah, it ended up dying without getting any kills. Yeah, Morskaya, Razvedka just in there pushed up. Probably in an okay spot considering if the other airplanes are kind of blocking the vision from those tanks. Not exactly sure. Bringing another BMPT Terminator way pushed up far up. It's going to be interesting to see if it makes it all the way up there without any AA, considering how many helicopters are coming in. But they do get plus 12 victory points, which is absolutely insane. They're just not moving those tanks, I guess. Awesome. I don't know what's going on anymore, I'll be honest. Those Dervatsia is probably doing a lot of work in those helicopter rushes, because that seems like the enemy's bread and butter is just absolutely spamming out a bunch of helicopters. But now that there's some AA pushed up, looks like the Russian team is actually getting some really good ground. Look, I mean, honestly, it's being pushed up by that one teammate on the right. I don't know who his name is, but the one in dark green. Another Sentinel coming up, gonna be able to spot everything. Looks like another helicopter rush from the right over towards, I believe, Bravo. Yeah, that's a lot of helicopters. That's the one problem with pushing those Derivatsias up in order to support Hansen on Echo, is that now all of his units on the right are gonna be able to be targeted by those, either longbows or guardians. Okay, it's apparently both. Yeah, that's gonna suck for him. They're probably gonna be able to take Bravo now. Tor's got its radar up now, target the aircraft first, or the airplane, but did not kill it. Now it's just throwing out missiles out and not getting any kills, which is going to be very, I don't know how they kill that, I'll be honest. But now that Tor is only down to 5 missiles, which isn't really enough to counter the helicopter rushes that they're putting out, that T-90M probably needs to back up. Hopefully that much guy is going to be able to get that Bradley. Looks like it. Now it's down to 3 missiles, unfortunately. Here comes, it looks like an airdrop. Yeah, I doubt that much guy is going to be able to kill that tank, so I'd probably smoke that off and back it up, see if it can get support from that friendly tank on Echo, but looks like he's... Oh, never mind, I was wrong. Looks like a friendly ATGM helicopter killed it. Get that T-90M out of there, probably just smoke it and run. Oh, and there's another tank, but now it's down to, the much guys down to 3 health, so probably gonna die to it. Oh, that's a lot of tanks, yeah. Okay, at this point, I would probably push your units off Echo, especially since there's no supply. See if your ATGM tanks and helicopters can take out that, because it looks like the SHORAD isn't pushed up yet. Maybe get your own helicopters. Looks like it doesn't have, there's a few tanks that don't have any trophy systems, so the ATGMs are definitely going to be able to prove worthwhile. He's pushing up the T-90M just straight into the enemy forces with like 5% health. BMPT looks like it's trying to flank once again. Could prove useful, but the problem is there's no AA backing it up, so unless the enemy team doesn't send out helicopters, which they've been constantly doing, it's likely that this BMPT Terminator is going to die. It does get some pretty decent hits on the tanks, though. Okay, I was mistaken. He wasn't pushing. I thought he was going to push up that BMPT Terminator much further, but that was actually a pretty nice play, getting a flank on those. Hopefully the helicopters don't show up, because now it looks like he's pushing up even further. I don't know if he's trying to kill the artillery or something, but that's definitely been spotted by that Sentinel. I don't know what those tanks are doing, because they're not even targeting, so I would probably move that back, because... Oh, okay, well, I guess he's gonna see if he can get that kill on that SEP-V3, which he might actually be able to, considering when it's at high stress, their reload rate is much slower. Russian tanks don't suffer from that because they all use, or at least I think all mostly use autoloaders. Gornostroki is being pushed up really far. I don't really like that, to be honest. That BMP Terminator is just... Why are those pilots there? What? It's pushing up towards some SHORAD and some artillery. I don't know if there's any support up there with their teammates. That would be stopped pretty much instantaneously by a helicopter push, and it's really weird that they're not doing that by this point. Maybe they're waiting for respawns on those helicopters. Maybe they were all killed. Looks like they're just using spookies now to try and stop the push. But those are going to be very quickly targeted and taken out by long-range AA, it looks like, if they can even hit. Maybe. Yeah, there they go. Yeah, it doesn't manage to kill the BMP Terminator. Maybe it killed the BMP-3, it looks like. Yeah, it looks like it killed the BMP-3. Terminator is just soaking up a bunch of damage and just absolutely killing things. Was that nuke avoided? No, it was not. But it got... I think it got like 300 kills or something very small like that, so it didn't matter. No, running the PAC-2 straight into the Terminator. Really interesting play. I don't know why they would do that. Maybe just absolutely garbage micro. Maybe they just didn't look at the map. I have no idea. They're retaking Bravo. Looks like the only place that hasn't had any sort of control by the Russians is this right side of the map. GMLRS just absolutely walking into another Terminator. What? Okay, I guess, I mean, at this point, it's basically GG. The amount of kills the Russians have done is absolutely insane, and they don't seem to... They seem to have just decided to just rush things out into the middle of the open and not care anymore. Comanche's coming out. Unfortunately, no AA except the Bereg, I guess. He's really liking this Bereg AA. I don't know if that's what I personally would have chosen, but yeah, that Gornostroki is going to die. Absolutely no infantry on Echo anymore. Thankfully, it looks like they're pushing the Tunguska up, attacked as some extra AA. Yeah, this tour's not in a great position. It's probably going to get targeted very quickly by this Comanches if they have ATGMs. Finally, the supply has reached those T-90s long after it had probably actually mattered. Yeah, there's not real much commentary to say at this point. The U.S. is pretty much already lost at this point. That Tor-2 ended up actually dying to those Comanche. That's a reason why you don't really want to keep those missile-only base day A pushed up all the way. You want to try and keep them at standoff and also have infantry man pads in between to act as distractions and things that the helicopters will target first. Because when you're having a helicopter with ATGMs fight a AA vehicle, a lot of the time people don't realize it is that those AA vehicles are actually going to die pretty quickly. What is going on? They're just sending out jeeps out into the middle of the runway. Here comes a Guardian or a helicopter rush of some kind. Just absolutely soaking up those missiles. Absolutely crazy. Oh, here comes the killer eggs. Yeah, this might just absolutely wreck the barrack, considering the barrack basically has no armor. And that killer egg rush might actually be worth it in points because I believe it has the 35 point. So they basically lost, what, about 110 points for the barrack? Not exactly sure how much the barrack cost off the top of my head, but that might as well have been a worthwhile trade. Looks like they're just Zerg rushing at this point. T90M just does not care. I'm pretty sure those Cav Scouts need to be stationary in order to fire their javelins, but they're just running out towards the tank. The tank is completely immobilized, holy, but that Tunguska is going to absolutely just mop up everything that's there. I would not be surprised if the T90M Marina actually survives this, as stupid as it would be. Looks like they're sending out a bunch of cruise missiles to kill their own infantry. Yep, and just absolutely kill their own infantry. Tank doesn't even appear to die yet. I don't know if they actually killed their own infantry or if we just softened them up, but nothing really happened there. Yeah, that T90M Marina is just gone out of the game. There's no way he's going to get another supply vehicle up to repair it. At that point, there's no real reason to want to repair it either. It's out in the middle of the open. You'll probably just get your supply vehicle killed anyway. That infantry is just a movement, slow to a crawl because of their shock, and presumably their sprint has already been used up. Terminator on the way. Here comes the Ka-29. I'm pretty sure this is the first time he's actually used this helicopter, so it looks like he's not going to use his transport helicopters at all for any kind of transport or supply. It just uses it as a slightly different attack helicopter, I guess. Just a bunch of Cav Scouts out in the middle of the open. This is truly amazing. Oh my god, he's actually bringing out his Verba for once. His Terminator was destroyed, I believe, by the Cav Scouts, but that Ka-29 is going to quickly mop that up. You know, you could actually probably get that Ka-29 to pick up some supply and drop it off the tank, but at this point, I don't think anything really matters anymore. I would be surprised if that Verba kills literally anything. Terminator pushing up into the enemy spawn. It could quickly be absolutely destroyed by helicopters. That Ka-29 has no AA missile on it, unlike a lot of U.S. helicopters without the Stinger Sidewinders. So if another helicopter shows up with that is a nuke. Not a lot of points killed anyway. Does not matter. So yeah, if an enemy attack helicopter comes up to kill it, well, I don't think it matters anymore because it pretty much got double the points off that GMLRS alone. Is he picking up those supplies with that helicopter? That'd be actually really funny. Maybe he's just preparing. Terminator is just out in the middle of the open. Originally, I was going to try and, give some more analysis mid-game, but, so much absolutely insane things have happened. Not insane as in, crazy plays, just, really stupid, just really stupid unit movements have been happening, and I've been quite distracted. That was their nuke, right? That was the Russian nuke. Did he even kill any U.S.? I think that just killed Russian units. That was awesome. Okay, Terminator once again is just rolling straight up into a bunch of helicopters. He's gonna quickly die. Maybe that Verbo would be able to tickle a helicopter. Absolutely, just completely misses a stationary target. Gordon Strelke coming in. Not sure what this is gonna do. Maybe that BTR-80's cannon could do something. Actually, the Verbo manages to hit one Comanche. Oh my god, it actually killed a Comanche. That was insane. Mostly because they've got probably getting distracted by the BTR. Looks like it was a longbow or a guardian, getting absolutely peppering the BTR. Another helicopter. It looks like that Katron, I believe, or Alligator has some AA missiles. Looks like it's off with those enemy helicopters. Maybe the Burba might actually be able to kill some stuff after it's been shot. Not. Well, it did basically 1 damage to M860, so maybe not. Katron has no anti-air weaponry, so I don't know why he's just pushing it up against other enemy helicopters. Yeah, they're instantly dead because it looks like that Guardian or Longbow had some stingers on it. Looks like they're doing a push on the left side with absolutely no AA on those vehicles, but I guess at this point it does not really matter. They got some Russian AA infantry actually pushed up, help support that Gornostroki, but that Gornostroki is definitely already dead. I wonder if those right objectives are even still being defended, or they just haven't bothered to push up yet. Wow, he's actually used an MTSM to finally get that. How long has that T90M been sitting there? Probably for the last, what, 5 minutes? Yeah, it's finally repairing it with 2 minutes left in the game. I really doubt it's going to see any enemies at this point. Yeah, decent positioning at this point, I would say. Once again, lack of AA throughout, especially on that left side across the runway. But looks like they're getting some BTR ZDs pushed up. Looks like some attack helicopter push on the right side. But immediately taken out. Was that some kind of strike eagle, it looks like? Actually, a pretty good bombing one, but unfortunately for them, the bombs really didn't do much to those infantry. But it looks like he's going to make it out of there. MH60 Killer Egg push is going to probably tear up that Derevitsia. Yeah, definitely did. But it looks like that T-72 and the Tor is coming up to try and put a stop to whatever they're doing there. Yeah. We're down to a minute left. There's really nothing to do at this point. I would probably be just tabbed out and not even bothering at this point. Taking a minute to admire that C-17 Glowbuster, I assume. Killer Eggs are just running back to spawn, I guess. Torm2's trying to take some of them out. And that's going to be a GG for the Russian team. Pretty interesting game. You know, it goes to GG in the chat. Says it only to his allies. GG boys. Just comes another strike eagle, it looks like. Wonder if it's going to even be able to kill anything. Probably not. Actually managed to dodge that. And there's some last helicopter push. A lot of missiles to dodge, but no, still got hit. Alright, so at the end of this, we'll see what the stats were like. Probably give some closing remarks on the game overall. Wow, I actually did not expect that, so. Looks like Hobson actually came out with the top KD. I'll be honest, I really don't know. He doesn't show the actual unit kill history, so I wonder how much of that is maybe like helicopters in the very ending of the match. Because he was doing, I would say, pretty. Actually, well, there was a lot of infantry he killed that was just running down the runway. This probably has to do a lot with the KD, because earlier in the match, he was absolutely getting smoked over and over by enemy helicopters. And as I was saying before, it's just the lack of AA was really bringing down the deck. And you could definitely see it in practice during phase 1 and through parts of phase 2. He basically had no answer for Killer Eggs and Guardians just coming up. Even with his AA, I'm pretty sure a couple times the Tors were just getting absolutely destroyed by Guardians with the Jag and Fire and Forget. But yeah, I feel like the issues were pretty obvious, so those issues can be mitigated pretty easily up in the future. I mean, he's been up to about 250 elo points, so clearly he's probably, and also the deck has changed from the deck review, so I would like to see it changed even more, especially in the AA department. It seems like he's only using the barracks, so I don't know why he's got 2 sets of artillery units. But overall, I mean, overall, okay game. Definitely had a lot of choice decisions by both him and his opponents. But yeah, I think having an answer to a lot of helicopters is something a lot of newer players don't really have. And as demonstrated there, if the enemies had pushed their helicopters up even further, they might have just pushed directly towards their spawn and be able to hold that choke point bridge. But yeah, I would say that it was definitely a interesting game. It's basically all I have. If you want to submit your own game to me, I would be willing to take a look at it. But I will ask that you also have the deck associated with it, and hopefully an up to date with the match itself. Go check out Hansi. He makes some Ahoy 4 videos if you're into that kind of thing. And yeah, that's the video. Goodbye.